Crayons. They're meant for kids, but can they be used to create grown-up art? Like a realistic portrait, maybe? Let's find out! I'm using 9 by 12 inch layout bond paper, and for my reference image, I'm using this gorgeous photograph by Alvin Visuals from Pexels. At first, my original idea was to create a drawing that looks as much like this photo as possible. I wanted to see if I could achieve photorealism with Crayola crayons. But as I studied the reference photo, I was really inspired by this bright, warm light that's illuminating the right side of her face. So I thought to myself, I wonder how it would look if there were other colors lighting up her entire face. Kind of like she's at a dance party or a rave with a bunch of different colored lights shining on her. So to offset that strong, warm light that's coming in on the right, I imagined a blue light coming in from the left, lighting up the other side of her face, and maybe a yellow or pink light shining on the front of her face. So right away, I scrapped the pure realism idea and decided to go for a more colorful, stylized portrait, but still using the reference photo pretty closely to define her features and to guide the placement of lights and shadows across her face. I started off very lightly with my Crayola crayons, basically just laying down my values, which helps build the form of the face right away. And after laying in the initial shadows, I put down various colors to start establishing where these different color areas will be. Drawing really lightly at this stage is important because it will allow me to add more layers of crayons later. So at first, I was really optimistic about using these cheap kids' crayons to make realistic art. I mean, of course I knew it would be challenging, but I thought it would be kind of like using colored pencil, in that if I just layered lightly enough, the colors would sort of blend together into a smooth gradient. And they kinda do, a little sometimes. But to get good saturation, to get nice, vivid colors, you do need to press really hard. And when you do that, the crayon becomes really slick on the surface of the paper, crushing the paper's tooth, so you can't really add any more colors on top. So that makes it hard to create smooth, gradual shading, for example. So I spent a lot of time, just doing light layering of colors. And after a while, it kind of drove me crazy because it honestly wasn't turning out as good as I was hoping. I mean, around the 2 to 3 hour mark, I was actually worried that this portrait would not work out at all. I'd spent the first few hours wrestling with these cheap crayons, hoping that they would work a certain way. But at some point, reality settled in, and this coincided with the artwork being at the awkward stage, where you've already spent a long time on it, but you don't have much to show for it in a way. And you'd almost be embarrassed to show anybody because you know it's so far from where you want it to be, so different from that image you have in your mind. But just about every artwork goes through this awkward phase, also commonly known as the ugly phase, where it is so tempting to just give up. But this is the most important phase in a way, because when you push through the awkward ugly phase and you push through all that doubt, it can actually be a real turning point. Because it's when you wrestle with your art and instead of trying to control it, you kind of let it guide you and show you what it wants to become. Then it feels like a breakthrough and really cool things can happen. The artwork might take you in a whole different direction than what you originally envisioned. And that's a really fun part of the creative process. Just being open to change and open to whatever happens. And also being open to the limitations of whatever medium you're working with. And trust me, when trying to draw realistically with Crayola crayons, there are a lot of limitations. Even though there are plenty of colors, there's 120 in this set, the colors don't blend well, and overlapping the colors will only get you so far. And the colors kind of clump up in a way on the paper, which is hard to control. So I did realize after a couple hours that this portrait would not be as smooth as a colored pencil portrait, and I made peace with that. It's fine, it is what it is. But it's good to challenge yourself and try new things. I definitely recommend it. It's so good for your brain because you're forced to find new solutions. When you use the same medium over and over again, you're so used to it. You know exactly what to do almost without thinking about it. But when you're trying a new medium, especially one that's not meant for fine art or realism, like these Crayola crayons, then you have to figure out how to make them do what you want them to. And that is such a great challenge. I totally recommend it as a way to shake up your art routine. You'll learn a lot and grow a lot, and as a result, you'll gain more confidence with your art overall. And that's another cool thing, that every time you make a work of art, you learn something new that you'll take with you to every work of art you'll ever create. In other words, you're constantly leveling up without even realizing it. If you're enjoying this video, it would mean a lot to me if you tap the like button. That helps me know that you enjoy this kind of content. And I also really appreciate it when people leave comments, because that encourages me to make more videos for you. I'm lucky that I've received so many nice comments over the past year since I've started my channel, and I want to thank you so much for that. It really means a lot to me, so thank you for your likes, comments, and subscribes. So for the hair, I decided to get really colorful. I wanted to have fun with it and see how playful I could get. And I wanted to create a sense of texture and bounciness. So I played around with colors a lot, layering lots and lots of colors, using darker colors like purples and blues for the shadow areas, and lighter, brighter colors elsewhere to help it pop. Just working on the hair took a few hours, and I was kind of making it all up as I went along and hoped that it would work out. In the end, I am happy with it. It kind of reminds me of cotton candy. It just has this fun, light, airy vibe to it that I like. After finishing the hair, I spent like another hour just fiddling and touching up the rest of the portrait, just darkening areas and trying to smooth things out here and there. But the thing with crayons is that there's only so many layers you can do before you can't add any more on top. So here's the finished artwork. It took about 8 hours to draw this portrait with Crayola crayons, and I think this was the hardest drawing I've ever done. It's because of the limitations of the medium. It was a struggle to work with at times to get it to look how I wanted it to. But in the end, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. This really was a lot of fun. And would I ever use Crayolas to make another portrait ever again? Maybe. I'm open to the idea. If you like crayon art, check out this video, where you can watch me draw these really cute, colorful creatures. See you there!